Welcome to Hamer Reviews. My name is Christopher Hamer and today we're reviewing the D-Link Eagle Pro AI M15 mesh Wi-Fi system. Mesh Wi-Fi I think is great. Alongside Wi-Fi 6, it's really making a difference to the internet speeds we can get at home throughout our homes, as well as making the most of the increasing speeds that are available to us as consumers. That being said, some of the technologies are really expensive. Netgear's latest Orbi devices cost £1,500 for their three-piece kit, and this three-piece kit only costs almost a tenth, at between 160 and 175, depending on where you shop. So, given this huge chasm between the two price points, how good is a slightly more budget-orientated mesh Wi-Fi system? Is it enough to provide you with great Wi-Fi throughout your home? And that is where this M15 comes in. At its price point, what you receive is still pretty great. You get 3 of their Wi-Fi nodes, and you get the included Ethernet cable and 3 power cables. That's all you need in this box to get most homes, kitted out with decent connectivity. In order to test them, I deactivated my Netgear Orbi 853 system, which I usually use, and I put these in place of each of those routers and used them for a week. And the results are really interesting. I didn't really notice, apart from some minor issues I'll discuss, a difference. Don't get me wrong, the speeds were lower, and I'll get into some more detail, but the actual experience of being in my home and using my devices wasn't hugely different, because at the end of the day, as long as the internet is connected and everything works, the experience is pretty seamless. So let me give you a little bit more background. The internet speed I have at home is 350 megabits per second and supplied by Virgin Media, and it's been pretty rock solid, to be honest, since I moved here. I have the Virgin router hidden away actually inside a fireplace of all places, and it's in its sort of mode where it just functions as an Ethernet pass-through, and I allow these to do all the internet, wireless essentially. In order to set them up, you plug in the Ethernet cable from your source into the internet port here, switch it on and use the Eagle AI app to set everything up. It guides you through the setup process and getting all of these connected. There's an LED on each which goes white when it's sort of functioning correctly. Takes probably 5-10 minutes, and job done, everything works. Now, in order to provide that seamless experience in my home, I use the same network SSID and password, so all of my devices would just connect. And for the most part, this worked really well. Now, the minor issue I mentioned just now that I ran into was the Sonos speaker that's in the room furthest from a router, which is our main bedroom, actually had a weird thing where it would disconnect occasionally from the network. It'd stay connected for 10 minutes and then drop off. And I actually found it's probably an issue with the Sonos speaker, because once I reset the Sonos speaker and switched it back on and paired it correctly with the new network, it worked flawlessly. So overall, that experience wasn't too bad. I actually really like the Eagle Pro AI app, so we will go into a bit more detail because it adds some nice functionality to these. But overall, my point is I replaced these in the places that I usually have my routers, so the living room, which is where the main router is, the kitchen, which is in sort of an extension a bit further away, and then in my office upstairs, and that, with my Orbis, provided rock solid connectivity throughout, and same with these. Now, my usual experience is to get the full 350 megabits throughout my home. There isn't really a spot where I don't get connectivity. This also includes my garage, which is to the side of the home and has to get through 2 brick walls. With the Eagle Pro AI, the M15 system from D-Link, the experience was very similar. Now, the speeds were not 350 meg throughout. In the living room, where the main router was, it was about 320, I think, odd. Now, upstairs, I got around 100 odd in my office, so a bit of drop off, and that dropped down to about 75 or 50 in the main bedroom, and in the kitchen, it was also around 125 megabits per second. Those speeds are perfectly acceptable, and for most homes, if you don't even have an internet connection that's faster than 100 megabits, you wouldn't even notice. So if you live in a standard 3-bed sort of British house, I would expect your experience to be pretty similar. Now, your mileage will vary if it's a new home, because you might find that construction materials have been used, which can actually block Wi-Fi signals. My parents have found that out, so that can be a problem. But if you have sort of a standard brick construction home, you should be all right. I really like how small these are. I like the fact they're all the same shape and size. They're really inconspicuous. You place them down somewhere, and with the single white LED, you just don't really notice them, to be honest. There are some minor gripes that I ran into, and that is that each of these devices has the internet port and a single Ethernet port. I actually have a lot of things connected to my Orbi devices because each of those routers actually have 5 Ethernet ports, and only being limited to one was actually quite difficult, so I did have to use switches in some of the rooms in order to connect all my devices. So for instance, gaming consoles, computers, and that kind of thing. It is a limit you'll run into, but it's just something to bear in mind. I did note that this had quite a cool VPN mode, incoming VPN mode, so you can actually hook up for instance, something like a NAS, and access it from anywhere in the world through the actual software included on the D-Link platform. So that's really cool. The speeds you're going to get on these aren't as high as you'll get on some of the more premium routers, and I will make some comparisons to the Orbi 853 here. This is one of the satellites that I usually have. I have 3 of these in my home. So these are dual band, so they've got a 2.4 gigahertz and 5 gigahertz band each, and they run at 300 megabits per second on the 2.4 gigahertz band and 1.2 gigabits per second on the 5 gigahertz band. Now, that is quite different to the Orbi, where it runs tri-band, 2 5 gigahertz bands running at 2.4 gigabits, and a 2.4 gigahertz band running at 1.2 gigabits. So yes, the Orbi routers are a lot faster, but my 853 system costs about £1,000. Again, compared to the 170 of this, or 160, that is a huge difference for not a huge amount more performance. Obviously, the smaller size is kind of benefit as well. Like, the large size of the Orbi satellites is partially because the actual routers, the actual antennas are pretty big in these, whereas being only dual band, you know, they can be smaller, they've got smaller antennas, but they still chuck out a decent amount of signal, and it is, you know, small enough that you can hide them quite nicely, which, you know, you really can't do with this. You do notice these when you put them down. They're not that hard, they're not that easy to hide, but you know, it's one of the negatives of these being the size of them. I have to say though, overall, my experience of these, using them day to day, was really good. I didn't expect them to perform as well as they did. I didn't expect to not really notice the fact that they just worked and everything, you know, my experience of using my computers and my phones, tablets, etc., partner as well, didn't really notice it, which is great. I did have some connectivity issues in my garage, but it is sort of quite a few layers of brick and so on, so that's fine. They only just about reach with the Orbi routers, so I'm not going to hold that against them. And the Orbi routers are a bit ridiculous in that I can pick up my home internet connection about 25-30 meters from my home. Wasn't able to do that with these, but again, they're not designed for that, so I think that's perfectly fine. They are very easy to use, and as I mentioned, the app is great for setting them up, and also the app adds some really nice features. So these actually have parental controls around scheduling, so not content filtering, but scheduling, which is great. So if you want to switch off particular devices at particular times, or indeed the whole network, you absolutely can set that up for free with the Eagle AI app. That is not something you can do for free on Netgear's Orbi system. They charge you a monthly subscription. It's ridiculous. So I love the fact D-Link is including that for free. They do tout some AI features. They're all right. I mean, I feel like they're quite standard, but it'll monitor things like the traffic in the area and making sure that you're on the channel with the least amount of traffic so that you get the best connectivity. That's good. It'll apparently use AI to make sure that it's passing your data most efficiently through your network. So if you have like a situation where you have 2 on the ground floor and 1 on the top floor, what is the most efficient route for that data to jump in order to get to you? Is it directly from node A to node C? Is it from node A to node B and then to node C? Like, it works out the path from that. It's pretty basic stuff, but it's good they're including it, and it's nice that they're doing it. I like the fact they have the firewall, which you can configure in the advanced features of the web app. I like the fact that you have the quick VPN setup. There's some really good stuff here. And it's just the price point that gets me. I feel like at 160 to 175 pounds, again, depending on where you purchase them, they're kind of hard to beat. There are competitors around that price point, so they're ones I haven't tried. But D-Link is a pretty reputable name in the industry. You know what you're going to get. You know you're going to get decent support. And yeah, I think these are actually really good. I was really surprised by their performance and the fact that day to day, you know, they worked really well in a home, which I think is quite demanding. You know, a lot of CCTV, a lot of media running through the home. These just handled it. So that's great. If the price is having to buy, you know, a cheap switch or two to ensure you have enough Ethernet connections, it still puts you at a way, way, way cheaper cost than like the Orbi system. So there we are. Overall then, I think that D-Link have a great thing going. The M15 routers are great, you know. These will cover up to 500 square meters in their 3-pack, and you can extend them. I don't think they sell these specifically, but they sell a couple of other extensions as part of the Eagle Pro AI range that you can extend your network even further. And again, it's not going to cost you an arm and a leg. So there we have it. That is the M15 mesh Wi-Fi system from D-Link. Very impressive and probably worth considering if you want a cost-effective Wi-Fi 6 mesh Wi-Fi system. If you have any questions about it, pop them in the comment section below. If you want to check out my full review of the Netgear Orbi, that's linked in the little tabs you can see now. And if you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up. And make sure you subscribe, because it really helps me out. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope I see you again next time. Goodbye.